Mr. Waterman and ask him to lead us in invocation.
Like this, as we come together tonight and our city council comes together to act on behalf of our city, we just pray you bless them. Keep your hands going in this time. We just say, and Lord, we ask the good things you have. Give us, just take care of each one. And we want to keep our eyes on you, and just in the name of Jesus, we ask it all. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance.
Alderman Brown.
Here.
Alderman Ross. Here. Alderman McCall.
Here.
Alderman Irvis. Here. Alderman Bratton.
Here.
Alderman Thatcher.
Here.
Alderman Campbell. Alderman Pittman.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here. All right, thank you everyone for your attendance this evening. We'll go ahead and get into our items as listed on our from November the 13th, 2018, included in your packet. I entertain any questions or amendments to the minutes at this time. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a consideration of accounts payable registers. I don't have the numbers there, but they're included in your packet as well. I'm entertaining questions this time on the bills. Mr. McCall.
Doctor here in Scott City. The ex-chief please, Mr. Bunker here. $100. You need to go, Russell, go over you guys in the place to let him know. You need to know where you better spend that amount. You the police department, Russell's the person to say yes on it.
Mr. Bratton?
Page 5. If I understand that right, we're reimbursing for guns from county auction?
There were two of them.
I don't know. They decided they didn't want it, or?
Well, there was a situation unfolded here whenever we declared some of those guns surplus sometime back, and then once those were actually sold, I believe, and Chief Ellemeyer can correct me if I go astray in this story, it was later found out that a pair of guns, I think, by law were needing to be returned to an owner because of the fact that the case had been cleared and wasn't evidence or something, so they had to track those down. Chief, is that a reasonable summation?
These two guns should have stayed in our possession at the Murphysboro Police Department. They submitted them. The day I took over, we were working with the LIASO program, who we get computers and guns or whatever you would want from them from the state. It's a program, and when you keep that stuff, you keep it inventoried, and what it happens, these other guns to get rid of them at the auction. The only reason it got caught, we were putting my name with that and they did an those two guns were on that printout, and then it was brought to my attention that the guns were traded or taken to the auction. People that had purchased the guns, one of them had the gun in possession in Maryland to go to Minnesota, so we got both guns back the next day. So what we had to do is go back for what they had purchased the guns for. If it's to Leslie or Sandra the other day, it was in the 4,000 range for all the guns that were taken to the auction is what we got from Canning's, and then the return that they were seeking when the guns were taken for auction.
Okay.
The other question I have is on page 7. Chief, you probably, is radar certification?
Yes.
Could you explain that to us, or at least to me?
So that's a yearly certification for those radars to be certified to be able to write tickets, and you have to show that in court if they request it, that you've had them certified.
Correct. I think this is Mr. Stewart's, the next one is Municipality Equipment Company Service Call for 1386, is that right, or someone else?
I think it's Tim.
Page 10?
Page 10.
Jim. Yes. That's Tim. Just the preliminary or charge.
It's at the bottom of the page.
Oh, yeah, that was work on our UV system earlier this year.
On the what, I'm sorry?
On our UV system, our disinfection system.
I just realized it
Fix that.
was my account.
Yeah, it was tomorrow.
Yeah. And somehow they did not get the check. If you notice that it's the October date of for it, they didn't get the check and she had to reissue it. So we have already approved that at one time for your own
Okay.
information.
And the last question I have is on page 13, the very bottom one. Install cam safety pad. 585.
Oh, that's huge asset. Sees that.
Yeah, but it would more than likely be the police department.
I'm not aware of what that is.
Okay, if you could you find out?
Yeah, I'll look into it and see.
That's
Other questions on the bills? All right, I recommend a motion to pay the bills with the exception of the, I assume the 585.
Say it's for video cameras.
Well, we'll just go ahead and accept the motion to pay all the bills, and then we'll dispute later. Yes, sir.
Well, cameras that were put the vehicles, if I had to guess. can check on it to verify, but I guarantee you that's probably what it is.
Okay.
We appreciate it.
Okay, sure will.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. McComb, did you make a motion to pay the bills?
Yes, thank you.
Motion is second. Saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. That takes us to our regular committee and commission reports. The first is Budget and Finance Chair, Mr. W.J.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no items under old business. Under new business, we have presentation of financial reports by Budget Officer Scott Evans. Mr. Evans.
Thank you all. So, we have we can again, again, and the and we so it is what it is. And purchase some of it.
That's the question. On page 2 of 4 and on page 3 of 4, there are two of them. One at the very bottom of 3 of 4 that's .20 that expired in May, and I wondered why it was still on there. And the other was to 426. That what about the one on page 2 of the board, that second from the bottom, 27,000? I just don't know why it's still on there unless if we have an over.
Maturity date.
Well, it's only at 0.5. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
Brad?
Do we have a local agent? I guess that's Raymond James, we've got those.
He's the, yeah, he's the local.
That's all I had, thank you.
Any others?
I would just, you mentioned it earlier, and I know that our sales tax receipts have exceeded 2017's month over month. So it's that's a very good trend.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, that's all.
Draft number 1 of the
She did. And so we can.
All right. Mr. Brad?
The next printout you make on the cover sheet, could you change the city clerk's name?
notice in there for Thursday at 6 p.m. I will not be able to be there Thursday. I had previously scheduled the bank annual security meeting and there was no one giving that meeting, so.
Good. Well, I'm sure we're going to have a multitude of budget meetings. We usually do, so I'd say we'll carry forward, and then, you know, if it's a brief meeting, that's fine. If it's lengthy, that's fine. We'll, I think if we could go ahead and meet, I know we're going to have several absences.
I'll be sure and hound Scott and Sandra with my questions between now and Thursday.
We'll go ahead and make sure to just pass the budget Thursday night.
Comment under budget and finance. No public comment. Move on to other things.
Thank you, Mr. That takes us to building and grounds, Chair Bell, and Gary McCall.
Standard old business, Eric, we're going over the sheet there to find out which one was listed before for sale. So we'll have a list of what we offered in that auction and the sale before. So we can go from there and separate them, find out who. I think if we're listing before, we can go ahead and sell them, can we? I think they've been listed and run the paper.
I believe so. A comment I wanted to make on this topic is, Richard and I talked about this at length today. We've been looking at and Mount Vernon and Carbondale's ordinances on how they're dealing with surplus property. Mount Vernon is taking a very aggressive position using home rule power, and then short procedure for doing this. ordinance for the city taking a more aggressive stance under home rule powers. I don't know if we want to go quite so far as Mount Vernon has, but get these things so we don't have so much newspaper publication cost. And we're seeing that there is a better set of circumstances we can do this in, but we probably need a couple, 3 more weeks to finish up to you.
Well, hopefully we get started getting rid of them before the next 2 months.
They also have another policy that if you build on it, they'll give it to you. But that's real use for them, and they just sit there on the rolls. They can't give them away either. So
they're not the neighbor that lives on each side. We had discussed talking to the neighbor on each side first. And one wanted it, and the other wanted it, and we let them split it down the middle and each pay half of the lot. And that's what we're trying to go along with. And money everywhere we can to put into something else, you know.
well, and then times you got to publish, but procedure that shortens that to 1 publication, and Mount Vernon does it without any publications. So I think we've kind of identified we're still and the reality is going to object, but still, you want to have a sound legal basis for what we do when we're deeding somebody a piece of property.
Well, that Mount Vernon ordinance has got to be illegal. They've been debating that in the Illinois legislature for several years about what actually, is public notice. And of course, the newspapers have a lobby like anybody else. And so I can't imagine how they get away without any publication of it at all.
They're doing it. So, I say that.
Well, anyway.
I mean, in the meantime, we can still put the list together of the ones that are on the procedure, right?
What we would propose would be a new policy procedure to ease that pressure somewhat.
Okay.
We don't need a motion on that,
I don't think so.
Question though, we had also kicked around the idea of finding a less expensive publication, and I don't know what the parameters are on where we would need to advertise, but another conventional publication that we might.
They don't publish within Jackson County. They publish out of Randolph County. And got a cheaper rate.
I talked to the people at the County Journal today, actually, just trying to run down some of that information. Is there, I think, $8 a column inch or something, and I don't know how that compares to the Southern's rates, but that was, and I read the state statute and found that same conflict, essentially, that the DE
So we're looking at that question too, but hopefully we're going to come up with a procedure that'll cut that 3 publications to 1.
Put it on our website and put something on the water.
Well, no, that doesn't qualify for.
There's always Facebook.
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah.
So
that's all. Around, and we're gonna turn on that.
All right, that takes us to community relations. Mr. John Ernst.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no old business. We have no new business listed, but Mr. McNamara indicated he had something.
Certainly appreciate the support of the council.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Go ahead and read that.
Sure. Bring us another good season.
Thank you for providing a pregame meal for our football team this past season. Your generosity is very much appreciated. Please share my gratitude with all those that planned and prepared the meal. Thanks again, Gary Carter, head football coach.
Excellent.
Coach. Yeah, very good season.
It's not on the agenda here for any reason, but I think it falls community relations, and I don't have it anywhere else. I just remind everybody that this coming Friday evening is the tree lighting ceremony at Town Center Park. I believe that's at 6 p.m. I know all of the members are welcome to be there and enjoy the festivities.
Around your umbrella.
Is it supposed to rain? Yes.
Thursday, that's
I make a motion to ban rain on Friday night.
If there's more than 20 people, we'll have more than Carmville after.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. Well, we had a lot of people last year. Yeah. That was also very nice. It was
I think
awesome.
they're gonna have two carriages up there soon too.
Yes, yes.
Any public comment in community relations?
Just by the line time for tip and we'll put up the rain.
See how it works.
It does.
All right, thank you, Mr. Irvis. That takes us to public input.
District, I don't have any updates unless you do.
I don't have anything new on it either. It's just sort of a holdover item, and it's really something we'll discuss more at the, I think really at this point, it's just become a budget-related matter, and we'll work through it during the budget negotiations. It's just a matter of making sure we identify.
Unless we have any. With that being said, I'll close public improvement.
Thank you, Mr. Batchin. That takes us to Public Works, chaired by Mr. Dan Bratton. Dan?
Okay, old business, update on the sewer main repairs at the hotel. Talked to Mr. Lee today, and he informed me that, I think is it a week from Monday that the new manholes are supposed to be in? I'll let you know.
Probably middle of next week.
Middle of next week, so that Dean Bush Construction can get back to work on that, weather permitting, and I think probably Blankenship did the drawing on that design and stuff.
I'll double check on that tomorrow. They were supposed to get right back with us.
Okay.
That has been sent in, so.
The manholes that he had to order, were made to order manholes, they were a little oversized, so they had to be built, so that's what we're waiting on, is to be finished up and delivered.
I do have, somewhat of an update on that also.
Okay.
I spoke with Joe Capias today on the phone about 5. He essentially, I called him just to say hello and get an update on how things were coming along. And, the real question all of us really have is, we're going to wind up, this is going to be a $125,000 outlay of money. And, he feels like it is Ryan Rawson's, fault that this happened because, erosion control and silt fencing and things of this nature were not put up as he says that they ought to be. He says he certainly is willing to pay for the additional cost that it has cost us to move the sewer main up out of the floodplain, which is I think an additional $40,000 or so. But he would like us to seek initially our remedy from Mr. Rawson via his insurance company. He's told Rawson he feels like he needs to file a claim with his insurance, and essentially we need to send Ross a bill that he can turn into his insurance. I don't know if that's all, gonna shake out in the end or not, but I just felt like I ought to update the council about that conversation. Mr. McCall?
Rawson, isn't he working for Fager McGee?
No, not to my knowledge. I don't think there's a general contractor on the
That's
job.
my understanding when they started building that place and tore it down, Fager McGee was the general contractor.
Project manager, that's what they call it.
I mean, I've not...
Maybe start at the top and work down at Fager McGee. And there's, if he is seventh, for Fager McGee.
I don't think he is, but I'll certainly find out. I mean, I've not dealt with anybody from Fager McGee since the beginning of that project. And I would have just thought as much communication as I've had that I would have run into somebody from them.
Well, I've seen him down there a lot, but my question is, who was Rawson work for when he tore down the motel? Fager McGee, my understanding, was the one that's taking the bids.
Oh,
That's what, I'm pretty sure, Joe, I talked to Joe, there's a couple of people, and he said that Fager McGee was hanging that part, and I'm pretty sure of that. So.
Well, if that's the case, Mr. Hill.
Fager McGee, I haven't read the contracts, but the way that generally lines up, and I think it's probably the way it lines up here, is that Joe is the he has contracts with Fager McGee, and through Fager McGee or direct. But the problem I think that all the subcontractor. We don't and the so, that's
I mean, pretty well anybody's out. He closed our sewer line, then he knew it was there.
yeah, it's not who's responsible.
What they're saying now is going to be underwater if the river comes up, I think they.
Cross your fingers.
Huh?
Cross your fingers. Eventually it will, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been doing that for years, so.
I mean, they get underwater all the time, the problem happens. If we have to pay for it, who has to pay for it, and then we stick our money, we've got to get those manholes where there can be a lid put on and airtight and secured, because right now, the way it is, the river coming up over, we've got two manholes wide open. And we're pumping out one and into the other one. The other one's going directly to the sewer plant. If it gets underwater, we're going to have all that river water going to the sewer plant.
Yeah, well, we're living dangerously.
Yeah.
Okay, if we're done on that part of it. It just came up, and I asked Tim Lee to get me a kind of amount of time and the hours and the fuel that we've used down there since October 4th to the present, which is 55 days. The pump has run 1,232 hours because there's sometimes they can actually shut the pump down and doesn't have to pump. We've used 615 gallons of diesel fuel, correct?
Yes.
Diesel fuel. Everybody knows what diesel fuel, I mean, it's low right now, $3.25, something like that. The current overtime, we're not listing the time for when they go down there during the regular day. There's 36 weekdays at time and a half. You gotta go down and fuel and check the oil every 12 hours on it. There's 8 Saturdays at time and a half. There's 8 Sundays at double time. And there's 3 holidays at double time. So that gives us 72 hours at time and a half and 38 hours at double time. My opinion is, and I've talked to Tim, and Mayor, you and I had a conversation about this today, that we need to run this out to the end of the month. And send Joe Capias a bill, and then thereafter until it's done monthly. There shouldn't be but one more. We need to get paid. We've been carrying it for 2 months. I don't want to wait till this is all settled. If there's a dispute already, it sounds like there's going to be a dispute on this. We need to recuperate our money back. So that's an update on that part. The other is, and I know we've been buying a few vehicles for public works, but we have a situation now that we have a small dump truck. What year is that, Darren? 01. Is it 01? I thought. 02. Is it 02? 01, 02, yes. Did you want to address council or you want me to? Go ahead. Okay. I'll talk to you about it. The truck is rusting out, which is causing in the floorboards, and it's got holes and stuff in it. Found out today that the steering on it is wobbling, go get up. We've had it worked on 2 or 3 times. The exhaust fumes are going in the cab. To me, that's life safety. The dump gets stuck very periodically where it won't dump. It'll be up or whatever. To me, it's a life safety issue. I don't know that we have to go out and buy a new one. We don't need the longer bed like we've got now. The short bed will be fine. But I don't think anyone on this council would put their wife, kids, or grandkids in that truck and drive the car. I requested Darren to park it. All we've got is maybe a pickup truck after we get another truck back that's getting fixed. So I want to bring it to the council. I'd like to have some input what we're supposed to do.
Well, I assume, Darren, you want us to buy the dump truck.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that would be what we're looking at.
Is that piece of equipment something that I presume that we're getting by for the moment by using other pieces of equipment, or what's the...
We've been forced to use it because we have to have a third dump truck.
Right. I'm just asking, I mean, if this is something that we want to, we got a budget meeting Thursday. Is this a part of your...
And that's something I had asked for.
Right for a new one.
Yes.
That's the overall.
It's not the oldest. The oldest is going surplus, which we'll talk about in the next meeting probably. We'll have 2 trucks to surplus that, and they're just worn out.
Misuse?
How much have we put into that truck recently?
I have no idea.
I mean, over the years, there's thousands of dollars. I mean, it's had floor work done in it, the cap corn's been put in, we've had new exhaust put in it, it's just getting old.
You looking for a gas or a diesel this time?
Just another gas truck. Yeah, we don't, like I said, we don't need anything like what we got the last time. We need a single cab truck with an 8-foot bed, as long as it's got a snowplow attached on the front.
You don't need a V10 in it, right?
No. That's more truck than we ever needed.
Do we have any other comments, input from the council?
Into the upcoming budget.
Putting that, are we keeping them from using it now?
Well, that was my next question. What the council think we ought to do about that?
Well, I mean, when you say there's degrees of exhaust coming into the cab, I mean, when I'm driving down the road with my air conditioning on in the summertime, there's some exhaust coming in my cab. If that can be mitigated some way and you have to use it, I guess, I'd say use it. But if it's, essentially to the point where the dump isn't functioning properly enough you know, Darren, what do you think?
It's basically the same issue we had with the 98 Dodge that sits across the street. It got to the point the exhaust was getting inside it, and then the dump was getting stuck on it. I would prefer not, if, you know, we're just...
Not daily.
A lot more comfortable letting him make that decision as it comes up, as opposed to us just telling him, you gotta park your truck, you can't, I've never been in it, you know, I don't wanna tell you you can't use it.
Well, I just, you know, if we have some major snow event or something and you feel like you have to, I certainly am not gonna, you know, discipline anybody for having used it, but I guess at the same time, Danny, I trust your judgment, Darren, I trust your judgment. If you think it shouldn't be our first option, then let's not make it our first option.
Well, my opinion, and it may differ from most of you, that we only use it in emergency, the rest of the time we use, but do we even have it? We had this discussion earlier this afternoon. We don't have another pickup truck until we get one of them repaired in the water department.
And we should be getting that back.
Yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow back, tomorrow morning.
It really concerns me, if you think about these all coming up through the floorboards and different places when you're driving it.
Yeah, well,
And especially when you're around town, because you're not going fast enough, it's really cutting. So, I mean, to me, unless it's an emergency, I don't know if there's an emergency big enough, I wouldn't drive it.
Like Alderman Pippin, I think we'll just use common sense and just use it sparingly when we have to. And
I would appreciate that.
all right.
You feel
We'll see what we're getting.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay.
We're happy to help out with that.
Do we have any public comment?
I have just one question.
Okay.
Tree removal at the sewer plant, and talked about getting those flags. Update on whether or not we tie a yellow ribbon around the old oak tree.
we'll go back, you know, from here to here is what we want to get a price on. So it hasn't been done yet, no.
Yeah, I talked to you earlier today, I thought some of them had been flagged. Is that true, or?
There's some flags down there, but
But you're not sure if it's...
I have no idea.
I mean, some, what it is.
Okay.
But I'll check.
Is it more than one day job?
Well,
I seen him down there last week, there's a six-wheeler.
I mean, some of the water's been there in the condition, so, you know, you just kind of line of sight some of the areas.
Mr. Pratt?
Just to clarify, what was the board's pleasure on billing the developer at the end of the month for the expensive here first?
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. We should have the thing wrapped up by the end of next month, so you could send one bill. But I don't have a problem with it.
Does anybody ever have an opinion?
I mean,
We should send them now.
You think we'll send one now?
I think if we're going to, we need to let him know that it's coming, so there's no confusion. When he gets a month later, then...
I agree with that. Anybody else?
I mean, you think that should all be, if we have to, should all be included in one also?
It's the same,
I mean, multiple bills.
it doesn't mean we shouldn't be sending bills. Hopefully we send bills and they get paid.
I think he should be told that he's going to be receiving one, though. I kind of hate to see that. Yeah.
Mr. Foster?
Yeah, just assuming one thing is the route, and we just need to clarify that we disagree, and that's his house, and so he's getting the bills.
I mean, liability, if it's on him, it's on him too, but also keep in mind what he's doing down there and what it's gonna do for us. We wanna, be as cordial and, to Mr. Capias and
Yeah.
man through the whole process. He hired somebody. 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 He hired somebody goodness,
Yeah, well, I appreciate the fact that he has tried his best to hire people here locally for multiple phases of the job. We will wait till the end of this month, and then the first week of December, we'll gather together that bill, and I will make sure to make phone contact with him and let him know what we're sending, and then we'll just go from there.
And then Mr. Walton have to show proof of insurance when he went down there to our city hall. And we have to have at least $1 million worth of insurance to go down there.
I'm sure he carries with us year round.
I mean,
Yeah, he saw the demolition list, so he carries the insurance.
yeah, so we always got $1 million with it.
Yeah.
Good point here.
And it's always better if you collect it up front now before we get into a
Some other
confrontation on who's gonna pay for this, that, and whatever.
we really can't do anything until we send a bill and don't get paid for it.
Yeah. No other comments? I'll close public works.
Thank you, Mr. Bratton. That takes us to public safety, so Mr. Russell Brown. Russell?
If we don't have anything on the whole bid, no bid, discussion regarding e-drop box parts.
Are you're gonna need to rekey.
What kind of cost to the business owners?
So
Number of municipalities that they have.
My question is, do we need an ordinance for that? Or, do we have an ordinance that controls how we keep the keys?
That's just on commercial property, that's not on residential.
Yeah, have you spoken to any of the businesses yet about their thought process on it? I'm assuming that you have keys to, that have systems. Has anybody spoken to any of those people? I don't know, $375 to me is it to some of these very, very small businesses. I don't know that.
Do you think it would be a smart idea to the people that you do have the keys, everything up and say, this is what we're proposing? If you have any feedback, we're open to that. I can do that. I think that, instead of just cramming it, I think we ought to.
We shouldn't just cram it down someone's throat. I really believe that they'll be more receptive to it if it's explained the liability that's happening, that could happen to us, and them for that matter. Thank you.
Actually, I've set up with the alarm system. Because really the cost is going to be less than, as you said, breaking in or...
Yeah.
All right, I guess there's no further discussion on that item at this time. Directive, Russell?
Have in mind that can happen. These things are pretty sturdy. Well, they're all solid.
All right, that takes us out of public safety and into personnel chaired by Ms. Margaret Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. Under all business, we have the policy for the city. Do we have any updates, Mayor, on that?
I did get some response back to the Southern Illinois Mayor's Association. The city of Marion responded, also McLeansboro, Effingham, and also, trying to remember which community this other one was for, Springfield, Illinois. So what I found is that essentially no one has a ride-along policy for any of the departments other than the police department, at least not that are members of the Southern Illinois Mayor's Association. Back for a bunch of ride-along policies for police departments. They are essentially two things. Either, like for instance, McLeansboro has no policy whatsoever, and thought it was a good idea if they maybe look into getting one. Uses, looks like a copy and paste policy from a town in Michigan, and it's essentially a liability of, or waiver of liability form, along with, you know, a multitude of things like, you know, if you're a felon, or, you know, you can't assist or participate in operations of the police department while. And Effingham's looks very similar. It's a waiver with a bunch of things that say, essentially, if you sign this, you can ride along. And, you know, it does say here, other persons, you know, it's a whole list of things, and it says other persons approved by the police chief. Same thing with Springfield. They essentially have a request to ride form, which is a lengthy waiver and information about the individual person that would be riding. So it looks like, you know, that's the information I got back. And just my opinion on it, I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill, personally. You know, we have insurance coverage. We have department heads, and if it was just me, I would say that we just empower our department heads to essentially, you know, at their discretion, along with a form to fill out and a waiver, either approve or disapprove appropriate uses of city vehicles for, you know, ride-alongs. That's my opinion on it. I think really what it comes down to is I probably ought to let our city attorney review what I've gathered, and if they, you know, want to say, well, I think one of these holds more water than the other when it comes to waivers or whatever, and then bring back something like that. I mean, that's my perspective on it, but I don't, as we all know, I don't have a vote, so misuse.
I have mixed emotions about it. I certainly understand the wanting to help our employees as much as possible in, you know, moving their children around, let's use that as an example, prior to coming to work. But we sat in this meeting, and actually Chief and I talked about this today a little bit. We sat in this meeting last time and had 2 insurance claims that could possibly have been paid by insurance, but the insurance company denied those claims. Okay, now if this young man is taking his child to a daycare center, even when he isn't on duty yet, and something plows into the side of his car and that child is injured, do you think that insurance company is going to pay anything for that? No, we're going to be liable probably. And the bottom line here is if a car fell in the hole and they wouldn't pay it, you know what I'm saying? I'm just not sure that even though the insurance company says, oh yeah, you have coverage. Yeah, we have coverage. Does that mean they'll pay the claim? No.
Well, I don't doubt they won't pay the claim. Our insurance company hasn't paid a claim since I've been made a claim.
do you know, you know, but I don't know, I have very mixed emotions about it.
Mr. Voss?
Not my area of expertise, but isn't that the point of the waiver?
And that would come up in court even though.
Go ahead.
The officer is, whoever is, he's designated that he's driving along. If something happens to that person, the waiver is releasing us from liability. Isn't that the point?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's
What we, the child, a police officer, parent, whether it's a man or a woman, the child, and
then you get both parents to sign the waiver.
okay?
I mean, I think, you guys, you know, look at our waiver that we currently have, because it was, you know, I think that's one that the former chief came up with, that we would probably can be, you know.
Dan, you have something?
Mr. Brown, and I'll go to Gary, I know you've had your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't see your hand.
I want to try to make 2 or 3 points. Number one, we have a waiver that both parents have signed it. That doesn't keep them from suing us and us having to defend ourselves. Am I correct?
correct.
Number 2, I have no problem with a school ride-along thing for a project, or a ride-along in the Apple Festival, or a homecoming parade or whatever. But to use a city vehicle for convenience is another. That's my issue. It's not the ride-along program. To me, a ride-along program is totally different
I agree with that.
than using a vehicle for a convenience. I think everybody knows how I feel about this. It's not personal, and I'm sure not picking on the officer in his life that want to take. I don't know if they take their child to a daycare here in town. I don't know if they live here in town for sure, the police. But to me, that's using a city vehicle for convenience, and it's not a ride-along policy. So.
Gary, you had something?
Mr. McCall?
Well, you talk about using, who lets a policeman drive their police car home every day? I think the fire chief drives his car home every day, the chief probably does. That Darren and those guys do their own, I don't know where, you know.
Call 24/7.
Him and his wife both signed a waiver, which I presume they're still married 11 years. If they both sign, and you're taking away the part that Ed brought up, it's just a question, and this is listed as a family ride-along. It's not on this sheet, it wasn't, we're talking about our patrolmen, our city people, family. We're not talking about going to this to a that's not a family ride-along to me. That's maybe there's some gentleman wants to go to college and really to become a police officer. To me, what we're discussing is a family ride-along. And we're saying if Darren and his wife both sign a waiver, then he can take his kids to school, pick them up from school in our city vehicle. I'm talking about he on his way to work up north to drop the kids off.
This assumes that
Well, the policy probably in that regard that needs to be amended such that, you know, I don't think anybody on this council or any member or any employee of the city expects us to allow them to be on the clock and ferrying, their kids to get a ice cream sundae.
That's what they wrote.
Well, that's poor policy, and that's why we need to have our city attorney, I think, rework it. But I get what you're saying, Gary, about family ride-alongs, what's on the agenda, and I agree with you in that, that's what we're supposed to be discussing. But the liability, which continues to be a part of this conversation, is the same regardless of whether it's a family member or whether it's a high school senior trying to get some experience, or whether it's just a motorist assist on a snowy night that you're picking up and bringing from New 13 into the police department.
Have you seen an accident yet where there wasn't a lawsuit?
Well,
I think that's
very rare.
If somebody, they're gonna sue the policeman, or the policeman's gonna be on the workman comp, there's gonna be a lawsuit 99% of the time in any accident. But we have brought this up, and if I remember right, the last time we voted on it, we okayed them to do this.
Well, I think that's because we heard, from Mr. Sergeant Weber that, a situation that we heard and we sort of deemed as we thought to ourselves, okay, well, this seems reasonable. Because individual situations and scenarios, can be considered individually. And that's why we changed our mind, because we felt like what was going on there was reasonable. And I still think that, the solution, in my opinion, doesn't have to be the solution, is to get these policies to our attorneys so we can get a waiver that looks like something that would, hold water, and then to essentially let the mayor and our department heads, at their discretion, determine what's an appropriate use and what isn't. Because there are nuances to these circumstances that deem individual different responses.
Could we hear from Chief Ellermeyer, your take on this whole thing?
Yeah, like I said, we've discussed it for 2 or 3 meetings now that I've been here. I don't think I've been here when Ed's been present. I think this is the first time. As I said before, didn't have a whole lot to say one way or another, and we all discussed what's going to happen if somebody's car gets hit in the side and the kid gets hurt. It's just going to be a bad thing, whether it's a child of one of the officers or an 18-year-old that's riding along from the high school. So just not looking good to start. I get that too. One way, the tradition of being able to do things in a smaller town, you like to be able to see that benefit, but I think there's not doing what the attorneys say to do with it, just due to the thing that could happen. As far as the police end, like I said before, a lot of the departments are getting completely away from anything like this because their insurance companies are telling them not to be involved in doing it. But, we give rides home from people at the hospital and take them home to help people out. We pick up a 10-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid walking to school in the cold, so we put this policy in place that says no, none whatsoever. And then we get seen doing that, and the next thing you know, here you go, you're being accused of taking your own kid to school when it's a kid that has to walk because they don't have transportation. So at the end of the day, you just got to figure out what the most reasonable thing is to do, and I think the law's got to come into play in that, and I wish the insurance people would be more vocal because like Barb said, we kind of seen where that's going to stand. She sat here and said, oh yeah, anybody in the car that's covered. Well, to be honest, the only person that's going to get real good coverage in the police car is the guy riding in the back. He's going to get better. So, but you just but that's kind of that's just what's on the table and figure out what everybody thinks.
Mr. Pittman?
I think Rory had her hand up.
Yeah, it's very short. It's just that I'm agreeing with Alderman McComb that there is no accident without a lawsuit. and we can have 1,000 fireproof waivers, but with a good attorney, who will get sued? That's 1,000. That's all.
WJ, do you have something?
Am I wrong, didn't we, I mean, outside of the insurance that was here, Osborne, last time, didn't we discuss, somebody talked to our insurance outside of one of our meetings too, and they said that technically, according to our policy, we would be covered?
Yes, Sandra did speak with that, yes, and I think Mayor did too.
And of course, Mr. Weber, you're here this evening with us as well. I know we've heard you address the council before. I want to make sure we give you an opportunity to, speak, address this as you would wish.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I've spoken with most of you before, some weren't present the first time. I agree with the mayor. I think this is more of an issue. I understand the concern for liability, but the waiver of liability should ease that concern. I believe you hire people to be department heads. You place your trust in them. Let it be their discretion as to how this policy is used. We are more than willing to work with the attorney, with you, to find wording, a common ground that you are happy with, that we are happy with. That's about all I have to say. I just agree with what the mayor said. I think it should be left up to the department heads at their discretion, as long as there is a set policy in place and the waiver of liability is signed by both parents. I agree that's a good idea.
Mr. Urbis.
I don't like insurance companies, but I think we're bashing them a little bit. I mean, I've had people in my car, that there was an accident, they pay that claim. I mean, that's a little different than not paying a negligent, we have insurance coverage that covers anyone that drives or rides in our car. And I don't think there's an incident. That doesn't mean you're not going to get sued, and it's not a good.
Fire and the police and all this, which is a good thing. Where public works comes into this, for years and years, not so much lately, but we have summer workers. They used to hire them all the time, every summer. Summer workers drove the trucks, rode in the trucks, so, not a whole lot of difference there.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah,
And
that is a good point.
I can't help it.
I mean, they're city employees at that point.
Covers all that. If this policy was made available to Public Works, I may only use it twice a year. I'm at work before my daughter's in school. It would be a situation where if my wife couldn't pick her up after school, she'd have to stay at extended care until I could get there at 4
Or if
o'clock.
one of them got sick.
Under the circumstances, as it plays out now, under those circumstances, I have to go home, get my truck, come back. It's not a major inconvenience, it's 5 minutes outside of town. But that's the only way it would benefit. I mean, I could not see any way it could be abused in my department, per se.
Darren, your thoughts on that?
I kind of agree with Tim. I'm just about out of needing to. It may arise, once or twice a year, but I could go with it either direction. Doesn't really matter. Those guys don't work for the city technically, and they're driving our vehicles whenever they take them out for a test drive. Are they covered then?
Well, and see, this...
Have you...
Opening the can of worms.
When there's no predicted, can I make a comment on this one?
Sure.
I tell you, the thing that troubles me most about this is that we have a department of something of this nature that creates potential liability questions, potential personnel questions, potential cost questions, and we have a department right. We should not allow that.
Come to this council though.
We didn't know there was one.
That's that.
the state police who have policies that run from here to outside that door. But
there should be at least a periodic by the, by somebody at the council level, because whatever those were, some
working at a bank, FDIC makes us have policy for everything you can imagine. You have to have, and our board has to approve those annually. They get, every policy gets approved by the board annually. Granted, there's more departments here, but I don't know if it would have to be annually, but it might not hurt to be something that we look through, every couple of years, or, to look at.
Mr. Voss.
Specifically, I think what Attorney Eller is saying is exactly what the mayor was proposing. I'm kind of interested to see where the council would land on the idea of us, if it were reviewed by our attorney and they were to give us back the version that they think is the best possible scenario for a waiver, where would we stand on if we would approve that or not? I'm just interested to see how that all would shake out. I don't know what we need to do as far as, does there need to be a motion in order for him to, for them to work on it, or can we just?
No, it can be a directive.
Well, that could be a directive, but I think, we want to sort of get a sense of the council if that's where we want to go. And that's where I want to go, but I'm not sure where everybody wants to go. And Gary, did you have something else?
You talked about family that I own. They brought up about the people we used to hire in the summer. Well, once we hire them, they come for, under our insurance is a hire anyway or something else.
Just personally. For one would be in favor of using it and allowing the ride-along program to continue.
Does that cover the fire department, public works, and everybody still fine?
Well, I think we can direct them to try to tailor it in such a way that it would cover everybody.
Well, if we do, it should cover everybody, not just set it up, for the police and not the fire. Set it up for the police, the fire, the street, and the water, and the sewer plant too.
Can I ask, outside of the police department, is it just department heads that usually take their vehicles home?
Yes.
I mean, can we limit it to people that are allowed to take their vehicles home, that are allowed to take their vehicles home? I mean, if somebody's out in the dump truck, do we want to make them go back to the garage and pick up their truck that they drove to work that day to go get their kids? I think that would be fine. If they're, it's a little bit different than the vehicles that they're bringing to work and coming to and from work.
I think it's the discretion of the department head on who.
Okay, I'm getting that it's a consensus, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that we want the, try to draw up some kind of policy with a waiver, and then bring that back to us for either approval or disapproval. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think that's a good next step.
I think I would take that slightly differently.
Say that again. Yeah, okay.
Like to compare it with what our current policy.
Alderman.
I'd also like for the attorney to point out the negatives to this.
Well, I'm good at that.
And it's not personal, certainly, but to me, it's changing a policy for the convenience, strictly.
Well, and I just point out the elephant in the room. This issue was brought up because one individual's nearly 18-year-old son was driving a city of police vehicle around, and frankly, that specific scenario doesn't need to be happening.
No, it doesn't.
And, you know,
I wasn't even aware of that.
and so, but, so there's sort of just degrees of, we've never had an issue here over the course of however many years, the policies we didn't even know we had. So I get just weary of the constant liability talk sometimes. I mean, it just, it stymies us from being able to make reasonable.
Liable for our streets collapses.
All right. Personnel. I got a letter from the Laborers International Union of North America, Local 773 today, making us aware that the opener works and a reopener for Murphysboro clerical. And so we've been served with that notification officially, and we'll begin the process of contract negotiations there. That's all.
Okay. And is there well, when is their contract up? In April of next year?
I don't remember.
May of 19.
May of 19, not April of next year?
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess, yeah.
So they're ready to start?
Yeah.
When we are?
News May, but yeah.
We may want to get through budget first.
I'll have that settled by next week.
Yeah, I know you will. You're going to have that past Thursday. Is there any other business under personnel? Any public comment under personnel? Hearing none, Mayor, we can move to the mayor's report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hughes. Under the mayor's report, I have an update on Mobile Ranch, Mobile Home Park. They invited Ms. Heather Kemper to be here. She is with us tonight, I believe. Well, she can tell us what her official role is there, but I wanted to have her here this evening to just talk about what they're trying to do to improve the mobile home park there. So Ms. Kemper, would you just introduce yourself to the council and sort of tell us what your title is there?
My name is Heather. I'm the manager out there at 6 Mobile Ranch. We've tore down some trailers. Our plans are to get a lot of them abandoned trailers out of there. The roads fixed up, a lot of the trailers fixed up. We fixed up about 4 of them right now. We tore down, like I said, 2 of them. And on Bill Drive, there's, I know 3 for sure that's on the list to get tore down, and there's 2 more for our next. That's what they're going to be doing within the next few months. Eventually, we are in the process of trying to get people out of there now. We're taking them to court. Our project is to just get it cleaned out and all the trash cleaned up and all the roads maintained and everything like that.
And who is the company that you're working for, or that's your supervisor?
It's CCI California Investments. Her name is Kristen Ernest, and like I said, they're from Oakdale, California. I've personally never met them in person. Besides, I've met one of them from California. His name's Mel, and he's one of the investors in with the property. They purchased a couple more trailer courts. One here in Murphysboro, they said, a smaller one. I'm not aware which one that is. And then another one in Carbondale. They've been purchasing a lot of the ones from Southern Illinois here lately. I don't know what their big plans are, but they're the ones who sends us the money and tells us where to go from there.
And I drove through them this morning and, I observed trailers with no underpinning and with the windows out and, one particular trailer had several couches out in the yard and things of this nature.
Yeah, I gave them city ordinance when code enforcement guy came out. They called me. They asked me if I have a place to haul them. I know nowhere around here where anybody could haul. I'm not from here, so I don't know. I told them they would have to haul it themselves and find something.
Well, my question was, is the company that you're working for providing you any kind of resources in order to help facilitate getting those trailers pulled out and getting that stuff cleaned up, or are you just there sort of out on your own trying to do the best you can?
That's what it is. I'm just doing the best I can. This is something new for me. I've never done managing a trailer court before. So as I'm moving through, I'm trying to get them down. But like I said, we gotta provide like our dump trucks, or the roll-off dumpsters we have. They will only order so many for us a month, and then because of the budget billing, they say. So the last two, they used two of them for tearing the trailers down. So it's just, me and my husband's plans are, and then we tell them, and then they send us the money, and we have to work with what money they send us for the projects of getting the trailers tore down. Because we don't move them, they tear them down as they're standing right there.
Well, I just want to I don't want to be sort of too hard on you, because I know that you're working with limited resources, but,
Right.
The company that you are working for needs to know that myself, our city building inspector, and city council are, extremely disappointed in, the shape that trailer court is in. And I've struggled to be able to communicate with them. And so, if you can, that it's, I think, important that they give you the resources they need, because really, that mobile home park is operating so far out of bounds that it probably ought not be allowed to continue to operate. And so they really need to get focused and give you the resources they need, or I think that this city council is likely to come down a lot harder upon them than we already are. And so that was just my perspective, because driving through there is, it's embarrassing, for the city.
Yeah, I know the roads are rough. We fixed them once, but I'm assuming the gravel's done, washed away. I don't know. They just told us to fill them with gravel, so we ordered 2 truckloads of gravel and we filled them in, but it doesn't even look like those as they've even been done anymore.
Ms. Hughes?
Have these employers of yours even seen this property?
Who I work for from California? Not all of them. Like I said, only one of them from California came down, and that was after they purchased it. They did not see the trailer before they purchased it.
And do you ever send them pictures of any of it?
I do. They have me walk around and take pictures of everything, and then they have a couple people out there that takes pictures and sends them to.
Well, I appreciate you attending the meeting. Does any of the members of the council have any questions for Ms. Kemper?
Yeah, how long have they had this trailer park?
They purchased it in the end of July.
Of this year?
Yes.
Well, I know you haven't created all the problems down there. They were there when they bought it.
That's right.
But they should have come down and looked at it and got with our code enforcement officer before they ever bought the darn thing. Now, you're trying to do your best, but you're not gonna put gravel on the road down there. It lasts. It's on a hillside, and it's gonna work whatever rain we get. And you have to go to coal taps or some kind of mill for what you're doing with your road. Because it's gonna wash away every time we get a rain. It just goes downhill. But I don't can, but they bought a mess, and you're trying to clean it up for them now, too.
I appreciate your attendance here this evening. All right, that takes us to the update on the settlement agreement regarding the Brown Shoe Factory property. I'll look to Mr. Heller. Do you have any update on that?
I do.
Okay.
I do. We got the we look at that. We are surprised. And one's from the free one was 60,000. That's 60,000. There's sufficient equity there to get us where we have to go. You don't think so, Dan?
Don't sound like it to me.
I don't know what those.
And I need to go over there, but it, I thought, was it not presented to us that there wasn't on one of them for sure?
You know, so hopefully within the next few days, and certainly by the next meeting, we'll know what the mortgage balances are.
So is Mr. Lawson the one that done the work down there, the one that's got the contract to tear that down too?
Well, he was the only one they could get a bid from.
Did they get the 8 contractors I gave you off the bid?
They got no.
That's surprising.
Does that work again?
So and my
'Meetings when they said that, I said, because I took a guy down there and he told me exactly how he was going to do it. He's done it before.
Which one was that? What guy was that?
I knew you were going to ask me that. His name went away. Wheatley. Kevin Wheatley. She was the one making the calls, and she screwed that up in the beginning because Ross and Carl is going on. And she shouldn't have been called with anybody. She was talk to them.
You know, that's your problem.
The appraisals in Jackson County, they're just so-so, in my opinion. But, and I got the addresses one time quite quickly. I just went on, did something else.
I didn't bug you about it.
But now, go over.
I go by, they're pretty poor like rental houses.
Oh, they know.
Yeah.
Mr. Pittman?
I mean, I don't know what we voted on already, but if we're talking about adding another 40-something possible $1,000 to what we would have to lend them to do the fence, you know, because we'd have to pay off those mortgages. I mean, you're looking at probably, if they're apartment buildings is what we're taking, I mean, you're looking at, so you're looking at $800 for 2 appraisals on both, and we could know exactly what the appraised value would be on them, you know?
You know,
Let me take a look.
You know, they're pretty well. Let's look and see what the assessments are. As our start.
I'll get over there and look at those. Anybody's do, not this spot. I want to see.
If I may, my wife is a certified residential appraiser, and that's what she does for a living. I know that appraisals on a building in this area are based on sales and MSR or MLS. And so, you know, like, that house may not be worth as much in Murphysboro as in Carbondale versus California, et cetera. So I think appraisal is a good idea in that sense, to get a good market value of that property before you go and think, oh, it's probably worth this much, and you find out it's worth a lot less.
All right, anything else on this particular item?
Well, and just what if, so what if this and continue to leave the citizens of Murphysboro in I don't understand it. Those walls have to come down by I don't know. We need to act. Sorry.
No need to apologize to me. I mean, I've not said anything during this debate because I felt like I said too much in the last one.
You campaigned on that for first run for mayor.
Britt's still sitting right there.
Well, now this thing with her, you know, those properties may not be worth it, but that doesn't mean we're not still gonna do it. I mean,
Well,
we have to do.
Well, I tell you what's a shame on my mind is that our last meeting, essentially, we made the motion to, you know, enter into this agreement and to lend this homeowner the money, contingent upon getting back, you know, information on lien. That's my recollection of the motion. Is that everybody else's recollection?
Pretty much.
And so, you know, I know that, I don't know at what point the Holmans perceive this to be, but we had an open conversation about it at a council meeting, and, you know, the newspaper called me and said, well, good deal, you know, you guys, looks like you're tentatively got an agreement together, and of course, it's public information, so I share what I know. I mean, as far as I know, Rawson may be down there tomorrow morning starting to push the building. I mean, I don't know what...
Doesn't say.
That's the problem.
Do we know to what was the last communication with Bentley Bender? Or with Friar Main Green or whoever it is?
What's been
We're going to have some sort of promissory note along with our...
Well, yeah, it's the north of...
Before anybody starts doing work, you know.
Mr. Brett?
Does Miss Holman own the house that she lives in?
The house, she owns the lease.
Cut the covered alone? But most of the time, if a person's not willing to do that, it's a negative, and if they're willing to do it, it'd be a positive, in my opinion.
Well, I think what we have to do here is we've got to very quickly find out what these mortgages, how much is owed on them.
And delinquent making payments and stuff.
And where,
I mean,
how much do we know? If this is one of those deals where, you know, we're talking sometimes. Do we go for?
I think you and I talked about it briefly one time. It's a pretty standard practice in the banking industry, a form of life insurance, you know, that, you know, it covers your basis more, and I don't know if that's something that we would want to look into as well. You know, and it's not an age thing. I mean, we do it on pretty much any commercial type of loan that we do. We try to get an assignment of life insurance on the owners of the business that we're doing. In case something happens to them, we're paid off first before anything else is done with that policy. And I mean, I don't know if that's something we could look into as well. You know, it's additional collateral. You know, it's for us or not. I mean, if it is, that's something to look at. If we're looking at doing it regardless of what they appraise for, and you know, then I think we move along with how we voted last time. If the collateral's not an issue.
Mr. McCollum. Has anybody seen what Bronson bid to take down? Do we know we went down? Just asking, has anybody ever seen his bid that says he's gonna take down all the stuff that needs to come down?
It's a good point, we haven't.
Well, I mean, I'm for moving forward, we voted on the first time. If we end up losing $10,000 to $20,000, we've come out a lot worse on it. You can see on his bid is what he has bid to tear down. He may not bid to tear down everything that we really want down there. And before we find out he's tearing down everything we want, we move forward with it, get it done.
We'll get that bid for you.
You know, I mean, it's just, I'm scared to...
Defense, right?
And remember that when you're working on this budget, and I'm not gonna be here Thursday night, it was brought up taking money out of demolition. We may need that money and more in the demolition. So we may have to.
Well, it doesn't sound like anybody's wanting to make a motion here.
We've already voted on one.
So we're still waiting on the information back.
We'll continue to work. And that'll take us to our next item on the agenda this evening. And I just have a quick, well, it's an executive session here, but I'm not sure that it's really necessary to really discuss it in executive. I would just say that I had a conversation today with Mike Jones, who of course serves on the Johnny Logan board and also tourism. And he said they would be willing to commit money to essentially split the cost of the purchase of that property adjacent to the Logan Museum. And so that's really all I have to report there. I told him if he would, get something, that was just him speaking. He felt like he could speak pretty confidently on behalf of them. But I told him, well, talk with your people about it. He said he would, and he'd get back to me. So I think once we really get that really firm commitment, then maybe we can step forward with that a little bit more. I don't want to talk numbers, but
is he going to give you you a number,
Yes.
what he was, what we need.
All right.
Not just what you just said or what. There's a lot of work that has to be done.
WJ, did the bank have that property surveyed, you know?
No, and I meant to I need to get with Harold and see if he can forward that to you, because I think the railroad had that property surveyed as part of that work that was done there.
They did,
So
yeah.
if you guys have a copy of that, can you get that to Will?
Okay.
We got an appraisal, and I think I sent you that, we've never had a full scope.
Right. All right, that'll take me to council member requests. I'll start with Ms. Hughes. Thank you. Mr. Brown?
No.
Mr. Moss?
Just had friends visiting over the on Friday night.
Excellent. Mr. McCall? Clerk Hunziker? Mr. Urvis?
I see the house on South 14th Street is still standing.
Oh, is this the,
Yeah, I was down there and looked at that.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 120th Street, yeah, thank you for the one on 20th Street, yeah.
Eric, anything on 14th Street house?
Permit expired.
Okay.
So his permit has expired?
And next week I sent the notice out.
Mr. Bash? I have nothing. Ms. Campos?
Nothing, it's just that I have an order that is kind of in labor pretty soon anytime, so if she decides to pop that baby out on Thursday.
You may not be here, okay. All right, Mr. Bevan.
I just want to be Harvey, my kids about twist their neck, Rollins.
Yeah. Cut all the lights and,
Before we meet with.
Yeah.
Great.
I think that would work for putting all the banners.
Yeah.
It was really nice.
I don't know what.
Circulation up there.
Do you have anything other than?
No.
Ms. Ripley?
Nothing.
All right, Mr. Shepherd?
We're allowed 30 days, so we're gonna, I guess, go till Monday, December, I think, 3rd. And so I need to get with Sandra. I know Mayor sent me one. I don't know how we'll get those. Those have to still go to the negotiator. He still has to contact them. But the rest of the parcels we'll send to the appraisers.
Who was the one we got back that did donate, the one that?
That was Fager, Fager Builders.
We've got several.
Needs to be done, and also the so I think the only thing they have the brick replacement. They're not concrete patch, so I think that will look better in the long run.
And it doesn't cost any more.
No, it's the same price. 15,000 under what was bid, so.
We're find a way to spin it.
yeah.
You could that's all I have.
turn to the left on Oak Street, and there's 60
There you go,
more.
there you go.
All right, Chief McBride.
On the, weeks ago, we've been working with Mr. Manwar, making some adjustments, improve some of our reception, take care of some of the issues that we've been having, so we're making some did some last week out there and had a good time with their employees working on that. Enjoyed our time there, and then I don't think they looked too awful bad, so they were willing to go down. Cool. Pretty good.
I appreciated that greatly.
That's all I got.
And I enjoyed speaking to the 4th grade class. I tell you, I'm popular amongst that demographic. It's amazing what some giveaways will do for you.
So you buy these kids.
Chief Elrod. Mr. Manwaring. I've been doing a lot of edits and going through and making sure all the links work and everything, but this next Monday, December the 3rd, is when we're shooting for, rolling that out, and I've contacted some of my media contacts and things to hopefully get a little bit of news coverage of it, because it looks really good, and it's going to be more interactive and just look better. So yeah, a week from yesterday is when it's supposed to go up online. And I appreciate all Brian's help with that. There's been a multitude of times, and they've asked me questions that I haven't had the answers to, and I've emailed them, and he's gotten right back to me, so I appreciate that, Brian. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Mills?
I did. It's really neat. I don't know what else I could really say about it, but it had a lot of, really neat features to it. One of them I was scrolling through, and if you're looking for a job, there's a place you can find a job on it. So, I think you've done a fantastic job with it.
Thank you. One of the things I spent quite a few weeks has been scanning in the entirety of the Big Muddy Monster case file. And we get a lot of requests for that. And so it's going to be, there's actually a section called How Do I? And if you hover over that, it'll say, how do I pay my water bill? How do I report a street light out and whatever? And then the very bottom one is, how do I find the Big Muddy Monster? Click on that and it'll pull up all those old police reports that you could read. And it's got the photos of the tracks that were there. And it's really something else.
It's scary and cold, so it is.
Yeah.
That's scary.
There's some people all around the world that came in after that I've uploaded that people can read. And it's, I think that'll be, just sort of
the best hide and seek monster.
Tim Lee.
Little something. Hope everybody had a happy Thanksgiving. I know I certainly did. It's the first time in 2 years that no doubt. It's my anniversary of my surgery. just want to report that I'm feeling great. I'm back to my old honorary cell, if you haven't noticed. And I look forward to being a big part of this city again. Street today, which I'm happy to report that we were able to do that without putting anybody out of service or issuing a board. So a shout out to my men for getting wet and not shutting down any valves. Other than that, that's all I have.
Mr. Kennedy? Okay. Mr. Stewart?
I told you the last meeting about breakdowns. We did get one valve on the, thanks to Tim and his guys for helping us out. We no more got that one fixed, and the one on the other side broke. So, my guys, when we took out, we found out what was wrong with it. So after many phone calls and talking with the guy that sold us, we finally got, they're going to send us not another valve, but a piece we can fix this other valve with, free of charge. But we still have to dig down, dig it out, and get down there and put this piece on it. But that's going to save $1,800 on buying a new valve.
Well, we appreciate your efforts there. Mr. Pratt?
How long has that been on warranty?
Plant for 25 years, 26 years, and I've had valves over there that never went bad. So, you know.
Seems like we're spending an awful lot of money on maintenance and repairing stuff for that new of a plant, but maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
I've got all that stuff in the file. I can show you the budget meeting, but we spent probably $20,000.
I would say I know we still have a meeting with Shriver, 2:30 on Thursday, I believe.
Yes.
Especially some of the problems he's having. It's supposed to be in here 2:30 on Thursday, so we are meeting with them. We've expressed many times our dissatisfaction with some of the things that have been going on, response time, response costs, things like that. So hopefully we can get some resolution this Thursday.
Don't build them like they used to.
Well, that's a very good statement.
Well, any leverage that you can use that's compensated, I know that you will, and we appreciate it.
We met with and he was able to give Jim a little bit of relief on some of the costs, but you know, it's like everything. I mean, some of the things like that is a year warranty.
Your warranty, well, it is what it is, I guess.
All right, if nothing else for the good of the order, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?